How to start coding in 2023. What would I do if I had to start over? My name is Isaac, previous CTO of a funded startup, and I run the checkout team, a pretty little thing. But more importantly, I have worked in tech to the point where I'm now making 6 figures a year, which is 100,000 plus. How would I do it again? If I need to give advice to 15-year-old Isaac, what would my advice be? This is the step-by-step. There's 2 concepts I wanted to cover. One of them is the learning and earning feedback loop, which I will get into. And the second one is optics, which is kind of more of an approach to your learning, but that'll be done in the step-by-step part. So the learning and earning feedback loop. It's not a crazy concept, it's kind of simple. You have 2 steps. You have learning and you have earning. Learning is improving your options for the future. It's anything that doesn't actually benefit you now, but in the future lets you do more. And then earning, it's cashing out, it's the money, it's the moolah. Now this is not a new concept, a lot of people are aware of it. However, one thing that I didn't know that I'm only really starting to come to grips with now is how they can feed into each other. Everyone knows learning comes with a cost. You have to put time and focus into something. It's dedicated effort, which is why it's hard to do and why not a lot of people do it. However, I actually did not understand for a very long time that you can actually pay with actual money. I thought you couldn't, I thought it had to be time, but not necessarily. I'm gonna give you a simple example and then something a little bit more abstract so you get it a little bit more. If you are a midweight developer today, you can buy a course for $380 for AWS training, and likelihood getting a DevOps job from this course could actually up your salary by 10 to 15K. I didn't do this. As a midweight, I actually could have done this. It would have made a lot of sense. I could have upped my salary by a lot just buying a course. I didn't buy any courses on the way up. Why didn't I do that? It looks great on the CV, gives you more experience, and you could literally start making more money in 2 to 3 months. But I didn't think about it because I was like, oh, I'll just learn it myself. If you're not in tech, I have a friend that owns a code design bootcamp, which I actually started with him way back when. People are on 20K jobs, they go through his course and they're making 40K. This course is like $2,000. It must take like 4 months. You can actually massively accelerate your learning into a process by learning from people that are experienced, because they come out and they get midweight design jobs instead of starting as an assistant, then a junior, then a midweight. By improving your learning so drastically, you can then also speed up your earning. And as you're earning more, you can then pay more back into the learning part and you can learn even faster. So you see how this feedback loop's going? Now, after that is the step-by-step, what would I do? The first thing I would do is, I would learn design. I know it sounds crazy, please bear with me. The thing you really want to do is specialize the most, because you have no real experience. You might as well put your eggs in one basket. So in that vertical, it's the highest payout for what you can do. Instead of trying to learn across the board all these skills to a low level, get one skill to a good level where you can get paid for it. So I would double down on front-end development, somewhere very specific, say web apps like React and Next.js. And the reason I would start with design is so I can bring front-end experience to life and make them exceptionally visually pleasing. The analogy I would use for this is learning design is like sharpening an axe. You know, if I had 6 hours to cut down a tree, I would spend the first 4 sharpening my axe. That's what design is, because every project you do after that, if you can design it, will look better. Your CVs will be better, your portfolios will be better. People will see your website and go, wow, who is this guy? You're not even a great dev. It doesn't matter, just get your optics down. That would be my advice. I would then probably buy a course, like a bootcamp course, to get me better on code, so that then I've got a very strong design fundamentals and I can code, and I would build good front-end experiences. I would then start applying for jobs with a very well built out CV and portfolio. You may even be able to squeeze yourself a midway job, which I know sounds crazy, but if you don't talk about the experience you have in terms of like, oh, I've done this for X years, you just actually say, oh, I did a bootcamp course and I was interested in it before or whatever. Just lean on what you can actually do. I actually did a version of this myself. So after university for about 3 years, I tried to freelance. I didn't actually get any real jobs. I made less than 12K a year for 3 years. It was horrible, it was miserable. And I decided I can't do this anymore. I started building out portfolio pieces and applying for jobs, and I ended up going from less than 12K to 45K a year because I landed an agency job. Now, I did have experience behind me in that I had been coding for quite a few years, which is probably why I got so well paid. But I think someone could actually get into like a 25, 28K job, which I know it's not the shiniest, but it's an intro into the industry. And after like a year or so, I really don't think that's bad. The key is to prioritize being very good at one thing and then not leaning on your experience. Show them what you can do, and that's the only thing that matters. Okay, so step 1, learn design and front end and then secure a job. Now, the type of job is important because of how step 2 goes. Step 2 is learn from their best and maximize your output on their best performing products. So again, this is an optics step that's combined with a lot of learning. You want to learn from their best. The reason is because in a job, you you can actually work with people that have excelled with this, that are getting paid 3-4 times what you're getting paid, because they're 3-4 times better. And what's even cooler than that is you get to work in pre-built and designed systems. Instead of you pulling them to one side and saying, look, how does this work? You get to watch them at work in a big system and see how systems come together. This is super important, and you can't get this experience unless you're with bigger teams. So that's why it's really good to pick a company with a good offering and somewhere where you will actually be able to learn and spread your wings a little bit, especially because all you really know is very simple front-end work. The more experience you got in, say, like their payment gateways, their customer authentication, the more you can learn about these things, the more rounded you become. Super important, do everything you can to get on their well-performing products. And the reason we're doing this is because this whole step is another optics CV building step. So you want metrics based on what you've done. If they launched a product and you were part of it, you can now put that on your CV. If you were part of the team that plugged a churn leak and their customer retention went up like 5%, that's something you can put on your CV. And it's very important as well that you document the problems that you came up with, how the team overcame it, how you overcame it, what you learned, keep a journal. And you do this because you're going to be using that for the interview at the next stage and crafting your CV and portfolio. So again, why design is pretty important. It's not actually just the visual. Hopefully you learn to actually design stories and visual experiences. So when you have all these learnings from the job that you're doing now, you can actually put them into a cohesive narrative when you present your work and when you present yourself for your next job. You could also pay to be part of hackathons, do other things like extracurricular activities that can go on your CV that put you in the tech scene, shows you doing cool stuff. Highly recommend that stuff as well. And then step 3, which is ultra optics. Now that you've built up a portfolio of actually working somewhere, you hopefully have metrics of how yourself or your team push barriers and increase revenue and customer retention, and you have a big journal of problems that you had and how you overcame them with your craftiness and learning. You go for a big company. When I say big company, I do mean like the FANGs. You might not necessarily get them because they are notoriously hard to be a part of. However, you can pay for courses. Some people actually do courses on how to ace their interviews, the type of tech questions that come up, the type of things that will happen on the soft side. So I would advise paying for that, trying to go through these more rigorous companies like Facebook, Netflix, Amazon. If you don't get them though, honestly, some people it takes years because every year they'll apply and try again. Just get a company with some degree of notoriety, even if it's like a Notion or a Stripe. These are big companies, they hold weight. I only worked at Pretty Little Thing, which in the UK is pretty big to be honest, but the prestige it gives you because people have actually heard of the company is very big, especially if it's a decent role. It doesn't really matter how much you get paid or what the job actually is. The whole point is just to be able to get in and to leverage the name of whatever company you're working at. Because if you say you work at Google, everyone turns around. The bigger the company, the better. And now step 4, you basically do what you did in the last step 2 when you were collecting information and putting together a portfolio piece, but instead of building a CV, you build an online presence. It doesn't need to be anything crazy, but you just make it more obvious what you do. It's essentially branding, right? Branding doesn't need to be adverts and all that. It's just what do people associate you with? That's all it is. And if you're a good developer, start making people associate you with that, especially if you work at a big company. It's a lot easier to brand it. So maybe you start blogging, maybe you start doing videos. It doesn't actually matter. The point is people start associating you with this, and you do it to set yourself up for the next step. You leverage the brand that you're currently working at because they're a big brand. You wear that for a year or two. And then step 5, you go into contracting. So you got a big name CV behind you, you've got an online presence, people can see what you do, it's very obvious to see from your coding, you got an online portfolio, all that cool stuff. And honestly, I do actually talk a lot of stuff about getting into contract roles and how I actually made the transition. So there will be links somewhere, if not, check the description, or just my channel in general. A lot of material for transitioning from full-time to contract. Recently, I did also put out a tweet where I was like, hey, if you're considering making the jump, hit me up with your CV and I'll give you some advice and suggestions. So still doing stuff like that. At some point, I may actually do something more in-depth to actually like help people find the jobs or source. I don't know. If anyone would be interested, hit the comments or DM me. I'll do what I can. So that is the 5-step process that I would use. I did focus a lot there on optics. I'd say one of the biggest takeaways I have from recent years is like, it's cool if you can do stuff, but it's almost not as important unless people know it. And I really wish I had better design skills now. I'm actually learning. I've got a couple design friends that I hit up and say, hey, what do you think of this? And we can back and forth on some projects that I'm putting out. But being the stage I'm at is trying to grow a little bit more of like a presence online. I'm understanding how beneficial it is really. It is sharpening your axe because it makes everything else better. You get people's attention better when something looks nice. And I think it would be the exact same for even now. Sometimes I hire people for small projects that I'm doing. When they send me a CV that's well designed, like they're the ones that stick out to me. And I tell them, I'm like, wow, that's a cool CV. They might not actually be that good. It doesn't matter. It's presentation, right? This took me 10 years all in all, to be honest. Obviously, I made a lot of stupid mistakes. I didn't know what I was doing. I think 15-year-old Isaac could maybe do this in 5 if things went well. So this is the advice I would give if you are considering getting into tech or wondering what to do. Check this video out or send it to friends that you have or family or other people if you like people. Have a nice day.